Hi, my name is Dan Alholm. I am a vaccine injury attorney. I represent people nationwide. I'm based out of Nashville. And I'm on a lot of Facebook groups and do a lot of stuff on the internet. And a lot of people keep asking me a lot of the same questions. And I thought that I would maybe put a short video together. Some of these people I've come close to and started to know in the community that have been injured by the COVID-19 vaccine. And I just wanted to take a few moments, address some of the common questions I'm hearing, and see if I can maybe shed a little light on it for some people, maybe help them out, and maybe provide them, I guess, a little bit of knowledge, a little bit of comfort. And I mean, I'm certainly not here to be anti-vaccine, pro-vaccine. That has nothing to do with this. This is just about talking about the fact of people who have been injured and what it looks like for them from the legal standpoint. And one of the first questions I get a lot from people is, should I file a CICP claim, which is the Countermeasures Injury Compensation Program? Won't go into it because I'm assuming most people who would be watching this video would know, but there's the NVICP, which the COVID vaccine does not fall under right now. And just in my opinion, the NVICP is actually a great program. For a government program, it's really designed well. And it compensates people who've been injured by vaccines. And most importantly, those people can get up to $250,000 in pain and suffering, along with, they get access to free attorneys. The CICP, on the other hand, it's just not a good program. And I don't think that's anybody's fault as much as I think that it's that, nobody saw and nobody could have had a crystal ball and know, about the pandemic and the COVID-19 vaccine and all that. So, the CICP was just not designed to handle this, and it's not equipped to handle this. And frankly, the NVICP is much better equipped to handle it. But, legally, the COVID-19 vaccine just doesn't fit into the criteria at the moment to be in the NVICP. And the reason that is because up until now, it wasn't approved for children under 12. And it also has not been subject to the tax that the other vaccines are, because only Congress can levy a tax on the vaccines. And at this point, technically it's considered a countermeasure. And also the vaccine is not really being sold to the public. The government's purchasing all the doses at this point. But neither here nor there. And I'll get to some of that later, though. But a lot of people ask, should I file a CICP claim? And the answer I'm going to give is very unsatisfactory. And I think it's kind of, half I don't know and half I think it depends. And I think there's people who I would advise to think harder and maybe seriously consider filing a CICP claim. And then there are people who I would tell, I wouldn't spend too much time focusing or working on that. And I'll get a little bit into that because the CICP really doesn't cover too much, as far as how much money you can get for your damages. And they rarely award claims. And I don't even know if they've awarded a single claim. They may have recently a few for people who've been injured by the COVID vaccine. But the most important provision of CICP is that it doesn't allow for pain and suffering, and it only compensates you for your out-of-pocket lost medical bills. So if you have something like health insurance that's been covering it, your bills, you're really only entitled to that difference between what your health insurance didn't pick up. You're not entitled to any pain and suffering. You can make a claim for some lost wages. So here's kind of what I would say is that, if you have an injury that you believe is from the COVID-19 vaccine, and you've racked up a ton of medical bills, or at least, a ton given your financial situation where, it's causing you some serious financial hardship, and you haven't been able to work because of your reaction or injury related to the COVID vaccine, then I think you should probably consider filing a CICP claim, because there might be something there for you, and obviously this has had a devastating effect, and there's going to be the ability for you to recover financially something significant because of those medical bills, because of those lost wages. So there's some potential there. If you, on the flip side though, and this is not meant to minimize other injuries by any means, but if you have something, like let's say CIRVA, and you have health insurance, so you haven't really missed out on anything out of pocket. It's all been being paid by your insurance company, and you've been able to go to work. Let's say you have an office job where your shoulder injury doesn't prevent you from working. Then I would really probably, I would have to really think hard about whether or not you want to file a CICP claim, whether you want to go down that road, and worry about whether or not it's going to preclude you possibly down the road from other remedies, because you really might not be entitled to anything at the end of the day. If you didn't miss any work, you lost wages, and your health insurance picked up all your bills, you're not going to get anything. And when I say not get anything, I mean literally. You might get, they might find you have a compensable claim, but say that you don't have any damages and give you nothing. And that's not really, is it worth the time, the effort, and all that? Because remember, unlike the VICP, you're not allowed to, they don't pay for your attorney. So when you file a VICP claim, you have the luxury that attorneys are taking care of all of that stuff for you. They're getting your medical records, they're sending them in, they're dealing with claims and this, that, and the other. In this case, you gotta go that way alone. So I think if you have, a serious injury, and the other thing I'll say is, I think that if you're gonna file a CICP claim, that's gonna be successful, you're gonna need, an injury that, not only that you think is related to the COVID-19 vaccine, but that you have physicians who think that it's related to. I don't think you want to go in trying to be the only claim, that's claiming some sort of injury. I think that's going to be really tough. I think if you have something that seems to be popping up a lot, or you have some medical journals that'll support it, or your treating doctors, agree with you, then you might have a fighting chance. But I don't think that you're free to do what you want, but I guess I just don't think you're going to be real successful if your claim is kind of a novelty, if that makes sense, and it's one of a rare claim for damages. Next question I get a lot as I glance down in my notes is, do I think that the COVID-19 vaccine is going to be a part of the NVICP? And I do. I don't know one way or the other, just like I can't tell you whether or not to file a CICP claim or not. I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know what's going to happen. But I do think that eventually down the road, the COVID vaccine will be added to the NVICP. And I think that when that's going to happen, in my, guess or opinion, I guess educated opinion, I think eventually the COVID vaccine is going to become similar to the seasonal flu shot, where it's going to come out every year. Some time of the year it'll come out, and it'll be optional for people to get it. And, they'll modify it from year to year to fit, to fight, the strains that they think are coming. And at that point, I think it will become part of the NVICP, because I think it was last week, the vaccine was approved for children under 12 and pregnant women. So it's good on that end. Really, all we need now is for it to, go through the legislative steps of being added to the list and taxed and all that. But, eventually it's going to no longer be a countermeasure. Eventually the government's going to stop paying for all the doses. Eventually, I think it's going to become, a seasonal vaccine that's optional for people, just very similar to the flu shot. And when that happens, I do think the COVID vaccine will become part of the program. What will that mean for people who are already injured, prior to it being added to the program? I don't know. I know I'm giving everyone a lot of real satisfactory answers here. I don't know, but I suspect that they will allow people to bring claims who were injured before. And historically, that's what's happened. I think it's either 6 years or 8 years has been the typical number of years that before, when they've added a vaccine, excuse me, they've allowed people who were injured by that recently added vaccine to file claims, for several years back. And given how new the COVID-19 vaccine is, that time frame wouldn't really matter. But I don't know when that's going to happen. I mean, that could be, a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the road, unfortunately. But I do think it'll happen, which is good. My notes again. Another question people have all the time is, what if I file a CICP claim? What's going to happen to my NVICP claim down the road? And that is the $1 million question. I have no idea. And I think anybody who tells you that they do know or has a clue is not being very truthful for you. I don't think that anybody knows. I don't think it's been an issue that's necessarily even been addressed by anyone. So it's kind of, it's just completely up in the air. And that's another reason why I think if you, or at least if it was me, once again, I'm not telling anybody what to do, but, if I had a injury that from the COVID-19 vaccine that I thought was going to not net me necessarily a lot of money under the CICP, I probably wouldn't pursue it now in fear that they might open it up to the NVICP, but that I would be precluded from filing an NVICP claim because I had accepted money from the CICP. So I think that that's something that when you're considering CICP claim, you need to think about that a little bit. And if I do have a successful claim, I am compensated, but it preempts me, and I'm not allowed to later on down the road file an NVICP claim if that's possible. Is it really worth it? And I think that that's kind of the $1 million question at this point. Last thing I'll say is I think that it's important that we continue to keep this issue in the spotlight in the media as much as possible. I've had people reach out to me from all over the country in the last month or so, particularly since I wrote a piece that was published in some newspapers. So I've had people from everywhere from Oregon and Wyoming to Florida to New York, California, reach out to me with a lot of sad stories of people who, believe that they've been injured by the COVID-19 vaccine. And it doesn't mean that the vaccine's not safe. My opinion is that if we're going to give out 500 million doses of it, it's inevitable that there's going to be some people who have adverse reactions and problems to it, and that it's important that we take care of those people. And I feel that at this point, our leaders are really letting you people out there who have been injured by the vaccine down. In particular, just the serve of people, because you can debate whether or not the COVID-19 vaccine has caused certain medical conditions, and it's hard to prove at this point because there just hasn't been the research. But for example, the people who have SERVA, they have SERVA. It's pretty cut and dry And it seems inherently unfair to me that had those people been injured by the flu vaccine, they would be taken care of. But because they're injured by the COVID vaccine, they're kind of just left in the dark to fend for themselves. And it seems very un-American to me. It doesn't seem very fair. I always say, we're kind of a country that usually takes care of the people who answer the call to help others. Our veterans, our first responders, our frontline workers. And it upsets me that leaders from both sides, this is not a partisan issue to me. This is both sides are letting these people down. I feel like it was people's patriotism was drawn upon, and there was people I've heard from who wanted to get the vaccine, people who didn't want to get the vaccine, people who were indifferent. But the one thing everybody has in common is that they all did it, and they were all asked to do it, and they were all told that it was the right thing to do, it was the patriotic thing to do, and they all ended up either getting hurt from it or they believed that they were hurt from it. And I think that some of the people I spoke to, I don't think that their problems are related to the COVID-19 vaccine. I think they're probably related to something else. And then there's other people I've spoken to where, I'm pretty sure that their problems are related to the vaccine. And I don't think it's fair that we not give the people who are legitimately injured what they deserve in fear that we might compensate some people who, whose problems weren't a result of it. And we got to find a way to separate that, but we also need to find a way to take care of those people. So I'm doing my best I can. I'm fighting every day, and the more I am involved in this, the more passionate I become about it, the more harder I want to fight for those people out there. So I've been, I would encourage everybody, if they can, write your congressman, write your local television stations, or if you know people in the media, tell them. I think that's really the only way we can do this. I have a couple media appearances coming up here in the near future, where I'm going to try and keep the word out. I've been reaching out to congressmen, trying to get meetings with them, trying to talk to them to see what they can do, and if people will pass the Vaccine Modernization Act and get that going. And I think that's about it. But I think the more attention we draw, the better off we are. If anybody has any questions, feel free to contact me at any time. It's Dan@servainjury.com.